Good morning. Glad you enjoyed them, Dave. Talking to Dave on YouTube Green Room, saying he loves the little classes. All right, so we kind of got what we wanted yesterday. It was a go nowhere day. That's what we thought might happen, and you know, same story as it was yesterday up at this resistance. And I guess the good thing is it didn't drop significantly. There was that midday uh, drop that happened, I guess around midday or so, a little after. It was kind of weird. All the markets dropped, in a 5 minute period. They dropped a whole bunch and then stabilized and looked like they were going to maybe roll over and then whipped right back up again at the end of the day. So erratic price action continues. Yeah, charts. I always forget the charts. That. There you go. So, what do we have here this morning? Well, looking at the time, I don't know if there was any news. Kind of looks like it. Maybe around that time where it whipped up and back down again. But overall, markets are just going nowhere here. Markets are waiting for something, maybe just to consolidate the gains that happened over the last few weeks. Prior week stall there, and this week so far going nowhere. Waiting for OPEX. Okay. So we got all these institutions that are just sitting there waiting for options expiration. Maybe. We'll see. We're waiting for a pattern to happen here. And what does that mean? Well, it could be a spike down that rips right back up again. It could be one that rips to the upside and whips back down again. We do want something to suggest a direction where there's been some type of a event or a whipsaw pattern where that whipsaw has taken care of something that we don't want to get stuck in. And so, right now the trend is up. There's no pivots back here. And so this pivot is relatively insignificant in a sense, meaning it does nothing for us as far as a potential trend change. If price is traded under that, that would be all fine with us. To make a lower high and a lower low into support within an uptrend where there's no major support, there is something of significance here, but it's not a pivot because it doesn't have 3 days to the left. So there's no pivot, but there is several days of consolidation. This is where our internals got to an extreme, and then we got that little consolidation and then the measured move. So a lower high, lower low, that would be part of our scenarios that we would want to take advantage of, since the weekly is in an uptrend and did have a powerful move there. It certainly could go sideways, and it certainly could, again, if it whipped up and right back down again, that would be a good indication of a short-term top. Something like this, but if it happened on the daily time frame. Happening on the 5 minute time frame is meaningless on the daily time frame, and of course the weekly time frame. So we wait and see and deal with this inaction for the moment. John's asked me if Tesla has more room to fall. Dan will cover that, John. I don't know what it's doing here this morning. I haven't looked at it. I know it broke the prior low and came right back up yesterday. So we got the same story in the NQ futures here. So far, trading an inside day. Yesterday, whipped back and forth, going nowhere. It came down into this support area and flipped right back up again. So even though prices are coming down in an ugly way, buyers don't care. Right? They're like, okay, right, this is an opportunity to buy. We don't care that it's up as much as it is. So intraday, they're picking it up, but getting out at resistance and going nowhere. These were up a little while ago. They're down. Dow was just going nowhere. Same story there. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that this had pulled back a bit further. So the reward to risk, if you were going to take this on the long side, um, was a bit better, but still nothing great. Um, so yesterday tried to go up and it came back in again. And overall, it ended the day where it started it. So more running in place. So if you did go long on a pattern like this, you're just sitting there waiting to see what happens. I don't like this kind of a pattern because resistance is close and support is close. So if you were to do something like that, meaning along here, it would be foolish to put the stop under here. It's one of those situations where you give it a much bigger stop with less shares and wait to see what unfolds. Better to do nothing. Russell, I gave it up a little more yesterday. Look at the way it came down there. First thing in the morning, it just kind of like fell and just consolidated. So, on a short-term basis, it's bearish. On a long-term basis, it's bullish. And let's say intermediate term on the daily, it's just consolidating its gains. So again, same story. We're waiting for some pattern to suggest something of significance. And ideally in this, from this market, coming down to the 20 or a little lower because of such longer term bullish implications of a year-long base and a wide range bar igniting. This has got, implications of going significantly higher. So we wait to see how that's going to shape up. Silver marking time here, getting rejected here this morning from that high. No big deal for now. Of course, on a short-term basis, it's a big deal if you went long here. But this is, just as I'm looking at this morning, it's somewhat similar to what could happen in the equity markets, meaning here you had this strong move. And when you get a strong move like that, and I say it's strong because it started with a wide range bar and it went straight up vertically, but it came straight down vertically. And so the angle of retracement here is bearish, but it did have 3 bars. You've got 3 bars here. So while you've got, and then we talked about this in the green room yesterday when we were reviewing patterns, in that something that comes down at this angle, you rarely, if ever, probably never want to take the long above a prior bar's high. But when they get 3 bars going side by side, especially one that's got a bottoming tail bar like that, it takes out the prior low, that becomes much more attractive. However, this is one time frame. Looking at the other time frames and seeing where this is after this ran up, and you look to the left and seeing it's at resistance, it's kind of a pattern that says you better be nimble with this one because it's really not the one that supports going significantly higher. So for whatever reason, what time is that? Oh, just before 9 o'clock. Sellers came in and nailed it right back down again. And that's kind of what could happen in the equities market, that they're so close to prior resistance that for whatever reason, sellers come in and it breaks and, heads back lower again. Right now, we don't have any of that. So we're waiting. Gold moving well in a similar way this morning, went up, down, and just dropping. And, we talk about the concept of prices going down because they didn't go up, or vice versa. Something similar like here is much more obvious, and that what we call the psychology of patterns. So many are focused on whether it's indicators or patterns and saying, this is what should happen, which is, we do that too. We look at the patterns and bar by bar analysis and say, this is what should happen. Taking into consideration multiple time frames and into market analysis, you can get clues as to the possibilities of whipsaws. But the psychology of a pattern where you get such a powerful bar like that and it doesn't follow through, point is, it didn't continue to go up, so it went down. And so longs that were so aggressive here begin to recognize something's wrong. and they start hitting the bid. And that's, the whole idea behind when we say it, in this case, it went down because it didn't go up. Whereas, it's a pattern failure. But, why did it fail? Because of what traders were expecting and what their beliefs were based on the prior pattern that didn't work out, and they all start to hit the bid. So we all look for, technical reasons why something happens, but sometimes it's just the psychology of the pattern. It just didn't work. So everybody just sold. Oil, been pretty whippy here. Just consolidating this big move. Not so sure which way this is going to go yet. It tried to go down and whipped up. It tried to go up and whipped down. Stay away from it unless you're a day trader. I like this kind of a pattern where the 5 minute gets a wide range igniting down, breakout failure, and then it just kind of starts to hook over right in alignment with the moving averages. That's a nice 5 minute pattern. Bitcoin down a bunch here today. We talked about the slowing momentum over the last week. And so it's consolidating its gains. Overall, it's just chopping sideways. Nothing terrible going on here other than just some consolidation. That's what we see everywhere. Transports, same story, flip-flopping sideways here, not really going anywhere. And interest rates came back down hard. This is kind of the MO of this market, of enthusiastic moves that fall apart and look like they're just going to crater, and they just come right back up again. It's truly like last year. I said it here and there, Mr. Schizophrenic relating to the market. I mean, this year is like Mr. Schizophrenic took some steroids. It's the whipsaw action that happens intraday or on daily timeframes is just incredible. Sorry to ask the same question. Go ahead, Gene. Those of you that mention any stock symbols and patterns, I leave that to Dan when he comes on. Sonia, is this really live going on right now? Honest to God, Sony. You mean Visa? Yeah, Dan will cover Visa for you. All right, let me get done here. I'm almost done early, so Dan can cover more symbols. Now, gold coming in here a bit. This is one of our recommendations from last week in our ETF letter that got in here. So what do? Nothing. I don't like the way this is coming in here, but from a longer term perspective of looking for a bigger move based on, this bottoming pattern here and this move up, this is one of those situations where something happens on a 5 minute chart and you get out of something that has longer term implications and you're shooting yourself in the foot. And so we really, we've got to sit through this, and that's what swing trading is about, and really ignoring what's happening on these smaller time frames, because we really have no choice. We've all been in situations where we give up, something that looks really good from a longer term perspective, and we look at some little time frame and get out of it, and then look back on it and say, "Oh, I had that," and look at what it's doing now. So there's no way around this. None of us like to see any kind of momentum moves like that on a smaller time frame, but it's what it is. Spiders. Covered last week the measured move here. I spoke about that momentum should stall, and it has. No terrible things going on here yet. So look, it gapped up yesterday. It closed below the open. It didn't travel deeply into the prior bar. So we see this as being neutral, but remember our conversations about on the way up. What's the first reference point of support? That's a prior day's low. So now as this has this a little bit, it's one bearish day, not a big deal, but it's in the area of this resistance. So if it trades under this low, it should bring in more sellers. Now we'll see. It's in an uptrend. It's not going to violate the trend because there's no major support under here. So if, again, lower high, lower low within an uptrend, that's a buyable event. Right? You can see the weekly, same as the futures. So we're waiting to see. Now, if we get a big, nasty red bar in one day that slams through the 20 down here, that is going to change my opinion, because it's such a big day bar to the downside. So we just don't have anything yet. XLV. Yeah, I mentioned this in the video over the weekend that it was able to hold up after this nasty gap down, which happened the week before last, and it just chopped sideways. And I liked this bottoming tail bar that it went down and came back up. But yesterday we got this thing. So I don't know. Maybe looking at some of the stocks within this ETF to see some clues. But if today by chance this could be a red bar ignored or a bullish 180, then I would tell you go long above the high. But right now, I just don't know. Again, if you're long this and from down here and it came down like this, you're just sitting through this in what I like to call intelligent hope mode, where you apply bar by bar and say, I don't like that. But this is repairing the damage, and that's a good bar. This isn't a good bar. Let's see if it follows through. There are just times where we just don't know. So we sit and wait for something to happen. GDX made a big move last week. It was actually a better performer percentage-wise than gold, but it didn't have as attractive a pattern. So it's closing. It got closed above the 200, which is great. It closed above these two prior pivot highs, and it came up into the area of this next one. Now, again, someone mentioned the dollar is going up, and so that's ripping higher, which is bringing gold down. And this has, it's got a big bottom here. So why is the dollar going up? Currencies are tied to short-term interest rates. Short-term interest rates for the moment aren't really doing much of anything. And, we've got the 5-year that's powering up here. Right? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how this was moving to the upside much faster than the 30-year and the 10-year, which was narrowing the yield curve, which is one of the reasons why financials have started to underperform. Now, so, we've got that going on, which isn't very good for gold, but the dollar going up. But this is what is pushing the dollar higher. Now, the 3 week or the 3 month is just doing nothing here. But institutions are anticipating that the Fed is going to raise interest rates, and the Fed is saying, everything's okay, blah, blah, blah. Politicians, they're liars, who's pulling their strings and all of that stuff. But so maybe, the worldly knowledge out there has some information, could be insider information, that maybe the Fed is going to act sooner than what they say they're going to. But this hasn't moved yet. But the 5-year moving up like that is saying that maybe things aren't so rosy out there as far as not raising interest rates until a latter time. But again, we'll see what happens. Well, yours, Dan.
Good morning. And Biden's having a victory lap with his infrastructure bill here, and Pelosi's still trying to get the other socialism bill out. And that one group, Center for Responsible Budget, they came out and said it's, 4.9 million, I'm sorry, $4.9 trillion price tag, not 175, but yeah, we all know about them. All right, so our open positions, we only have one that's causing a little heartache, and it's because of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we've been saying, you know, so much enthusiasm, thinks it's going to 100,000 in the next 6 weeks. Chart does not suggest that. There's more talk here about China. China raises his head, every month or two or three and rattles it a little bit, and then the U.S. is blabbing about some things. So, it looks like a short-term top. So we have way out of the money puts on Mr. And this is gapping down, but they're really far away. So gapping down here to 770. We have the 670s here at the 200. So, we just need the TikTok for Friday. All right, I know somebody asked about Visa. It's opening flat. There's no bullish pattern, and there's not even a great bearish one, although look at the declining 2050. This topping tail, which was a deep retracement, got rejected. I would say yesterday's low looks like a day trade short. Wow, McGraw, look at McGraw's comment. Are you serious, McGraw? How many? So 35 million? Wow, that's a big number. Well, you could know that by if he admitted it, how many he sold, but I'm not quite sure you're going to get accurate data on that unless you know him personally and know his traders. All right, Sony, we did Visa. Gene, does BBY have room to the upside? No. It doesn't have room to the upside. I mean, the monthly does, but I seriously doubt you're trading the monthly, number one. And number two, the concept of multiple time frame alignment. That's the biggest red bearish outside bar in this entire October, November advance. It's a bearish reversal on the weekly as of now. No, I would not touch BBBY long. Come into our green room, spend $7 on a trial, and I will give you drastically superior new bullish setups than that. Raul, TSN. I read in the journal yesterday they raised prices. So that's a bull 180. Now, so this is actually a superior pattern than BBBY because the daily is a shock. It's an engulfing. It's close to support on volume, breakout weekly. So yeah, Tyson looks good. Yeah, I like that. Looks good. I'll put that in the window. My other computer. I saw another article yesterday in the journal. I forgot to mention it. That they're saying that companies are making more money on inflation because they know it's a prime time to increase costs on all their stuff. So like, yeah, why not? Incredible. Oh, nice, Lawrence. I was going to say that. I was going to say we need to start watching this thing. And I was going to say that if this thing gaps up big, which it is, and then that's the day that options come out, that could be the perfect timing for a short-term top. But this thing had incredible bullish sentiment. It is strong, no question about it. But it's a gap and crap pattern right now. So I put it in my other chart. Oh, also back to Bitcoin. Bank of America came out, and I don't know how they define this, but they said Bitcoin is the second most crowded trade. Thomas, that ain't bad. It's in an uptrend. You had a closing breakout, gapping up, pulling back. That's worth watching. I have shop here from yesterday. We never entered the put spread, but that's still on my list. We were trying to do a put spread under Friday's low. It's rolling here a little bit pre-market, but let's keep an eye on that. All right, a couple other gappers here. Gene, you said you entered short. I'm not sure on what. NTs, yeah, I had a gap up on earnings, but Thomas, there's no pattern. You know, we're trying to. Oh, and I forgot. My new rule was I wasn't going to answer. I wasn't going to answer your questions until I got through my list, but I violated that rule today. And then, Greg can type to whoever he wants to. Yeah, because I just don't get through my list is all. Here I posted that. Oh, remember I was talking to some guy about a new superior setup. Here's a new superior setup also, BLFS. So it's deep, but it's a buy setup. It was on my list from the weekend with the bottoming tail. And then yesterday is a closing bullish engulfing. So that's a buy setup. Target 53, 54, I don't know. But that's a nice new setup. Let's see next. Put that in the window. Set an alarm. BLFS. That's a mouthful. All right. I don't even know what this company is. This is the 23andMe holding company. It's topping, no pattern. This obviously is a SPAC, gapping up a little bit, but no pattern there. Gold we talked about. Riven, LCIT is another electric vehicle. That's a big old bullish gap up. Janet, is this the one that I said target 50 to 55 when we were down here? Wow, that was a nice weekly breakout, but too extended now. Look at Boyle. Boyle is natural gas ETF. That had a nice little gap in pre-market. That looks like I don't think I've ever traded puts on that, but if you can do a put spread last week's low, NUE was on the CEO was on the TV talking about how they would benefit from the infrastructure bill and how their steel is so much cleaner than China. SE trading range, but put spread last week's low. Uniform. Now see, that's what we call a climactic sell setup. And it had earnings on this gap reversal day. So it is strong, but that